Solid week of price action turned in by all four major precious metals. The price of silver appears to be ending the week just above the 18 fiat Fed note per ounce handle, rising some 50 cupro nickel cents from late last week's close. Gold finds a weekly end to its spot gold price right around $1,505 per ounce. Platinum rebounded well from recent downturns. The spot platinum price looks to be closing around 925 fiat Fed notes per ounce. That's still historically low in terms of its overall 100-year price relation to gold, about as low as it's been in over 100 years. Palladium keeps finding fresh record price highs in fiat Fed notes. The spot palladium price is ending around $1,785 per ounce as physical palladium supplies are increasingly scarce and palladium lease rates are again climbing. The gold-silver ratio slipped to 83 to close the week, hearing word from many COMEX derivative traders that there is a lot of gold-silver ratio spread trades ongoing, so it'll be interesting to see how this closes for the remainder of 2019. In this week's Metals and Markets podcast wrap, we have a rare two-part government mint interview to dive into. As the sponsor of this podcast, we at SD Bullion are throwing a VIP tour sweepstakes for one lucky winner and their guest to go up to Ottawa, Canada and visit the Royal Canadian Mint firsthand. To kick off this contest, this week's podcast guest will be the CEO and Managing Director of the Bullion Department for the Royal Canadian Mint. Before we dig into those interviews, a couple industry-related news items for you listeners. If you simply just want to cut ahead to the interviews, just scroll up to the 7-minute mark and they begin. This past Wednesday, October 23rd, 2019, the private New York Federal Reserve Central Bank announced that it's increasing its temporary overnight repo operations to $120 billion a day from its original up to $75 billion per night commitment. A couple questions come to mind. They might be coming to yours too. Is the word temporary kind of like the word Nixon used when he divorced the final gold ties from the now full fiat Federal Reserve note? Are overnight repo loans of $100 billion or more per evening a new feature of our financial system? Do your listeners remember when the first repo loan madness began circa 2007? It ultimately culminated into a Bear Stearns bankruptcy, then a Lehman Brothers bankruptcy, then a $700 billion TARP bailout, which led to a partial Fed audit, which ultimately revealed some $29 trillion in total bailouts extended by 2011. Remember that? Does this current repo loan extension bolster further faith in our financial markets? And does it instill yet more faith in our fiat reserve currency's future value? Well, onward to an actual federal U.S. government department which deserves some applause for their actions this past week. Only 7 years after the Royal Canadian Mint added anti-counterfeit technologies to their many popular bullion products, the U.S. Mint, under the direction of Steve Mnuchin, has decided that by 2021, both gold and silver eagle coin backsides require redesigns that will infuse anti-counterfeit technology. Now, since at least the year 2012, thousands of average would-be bullion stackers have either been fooled and or defrauded by counterfeits, which almost all have come out of China. The Chinese apparently still have a lax attitude with high-grade counterfeiting of other nations' legal tender and physical precious metal currencies. It remains fairly common to see publicly traded companies in U.S. financial markets, such as Alibaba, simply ignoring their very own company policies, neglecting to police this ongoing problem. They actively are still ignoring basic international legal tender law and order. So it's good news because this is a real problem. And even after almost 9 years since fake silver eagle coins became an obvious real threat to our industry, at least the U.S. Mint is finally taking some real action to help thwart this problem at a realistic level that the Mint itself can actually control directly. This decision, it may become Steve Mnuchin's greatest achievement. Breaking away from sarcastic remarks, let's talk to the folks who run the first major government bullion mint to not only take Chinese counterfeit threats seriously, but also do something about it by enhancing the value proposition of their popular bullion products. Both the CEO and Managing Director of the Royal Canadian Mint are coming up right after this brief announcement from our show's sponsor. Want to get away? SD Bullion is giving away a free VIP trip for two to the Royal Canadian Mint. Winners will receive free round-trip airfare to Ottawa, Canada, 2 nights hotel accommodations, and a private VIP plant tour of the world-class RCM facility. Founded in 1908, the Royal Canadian Mint makes some of the world's most popular and the widest array of precious metal bullion bars and coins. See and learn firsthand how gold and silver coins and bullion bars are minted. To join this sweepstakes, legal U.S. residents age 21 and older can simply enter your email at the URL below and you'll be automatically entered to win. This contest ends November 20th, 2019. No purchase is necessary. See official rules for details. Good luck. Welcome to this week's Metals and Markets Rat. I am your host, James Anderson of SD Bullion. With us this week is a special guest of the podcast. It's Royal Canadian Mint President and CEO, Marie LeMay. Marie, welcome to our show.
Thank you. Pleasure to be there.
Hey, Marie, I have a question as far as, obviously you're the CEO of the RCM, but my hunch is you've probably been working with them for a long time. When did you start working with the Royal Canadian Mint?
Actually, I started in February 2019, so
wow.
It's only been 8 months.
Wow. What are your impressions thus far of running this incredible mint, this historic mint?
Well, it's a fantastic, innovative organization. People are passionate, dedicated. It's really a fantastic environment, and the clear objective of all is to make sure that our customers get the greatest experience and the greatest products.
So I want to learn a little bit about the founding and let our listeners know about the founding of the Royal Canadian Mint in Ottawa. It was in early 1908. Could you give our listeners a little bit of a background on how it was founded and some of the history there?
So you're correct, James. It was founded on January 2nd in 1908. And the headquarters and manufacturing facility in Ottawa were opened as the Canadian branch of the United Kingdom's Royal Mint. So the facility was, the first priority was to fulfill the growing demand for new Canadian circulation coins because the Royal Mint in London could no longer accommodate. So at that time, there was a high demand for domestically refined gold mined in Yukon and British Columbia. So it led to the addition of a full-time gold refinery in 1911. So 3 years later, we actually constructed a refinery. And those refinery operation, as well as the production of bullion coins, wafers, and bars, they continue to this date at the very same site. So a lot of history here. We became the Royal Canadian Mint in 1931 after the Ottawa facility was transferred to the Canadian government, and then the circulation coins productions moved from Ottawa to Winnipeg in 1976. So, like I said, a lot of history and a beautiful setting behind the castle walls on Sussex Drive in Ottawa, if anybody had the chance to come and visit.
Obviously, you guys have grown a lot since, and you work in a lot of facets now. I was wondering, what type of commercial manners does the RCM work in? What do you guys, what businesses are you involved in right now?
Well, I guess the first thing is we became a Crown Corporation in 1969, so wholly owned by the Government of Canada, and we became increasingly diversified. We capitalize on opportunities in the numismatic, bullion, and foreign circulation. So those are 3 business lines that we've added to the circulation coin. And we really are today a versatile and profitable organization that is constantly delivering value to our exclusive shareholder and to the people of Canada. So very exciting innovation within those big, thick walls.
Yeah, I mean, I've traveled a bunch throughout the world, and every time I get to different countries, I can tell sometimes that they didn't issue the coinage. It's probably the Canadian Mint that's been doing a lot of the coinage bills. So very impressive, the fact that a lot of countries trust you guys to do their own coinage.
Yeah. I was going to say it's over 75 different countries
wow.
since the Winnipeg facility opened. So
I wanted to ask you a difference between the Ottawa and Winnipeg facilities. You had mentioned a little bit about the fact that that you changed over in 1976 to the Winnipeg. Could you give a little bit of a description for the listeners about the difference between the two sites?
Yes, absolutely. So the Ottawa facility is dedicated to the production of collector coins, metals, and a full range of bullion products. And it's also where our head office is located. And our leading gold and silver maple leaf bullion coins, as well as the bars, the wafers, and the grains, are also manufactured in Ottawa. So in Winnipeg, before in Ottawa, we also have the refinery, as I talked about, and we offer high security precious metal storage. So this is the Ottawa facility. In Winnipeg, it was purpose-built for high-speed, high-volume productions of Canadian and foreign circulation coin. And it does include a state-of-the-art plating facility and an R&D center where we continue to develop new coinage solutions for us and for countries around the world. So far, like I said earlier, we produced coins and blanks for over 75 different countries since the facility was opened in 76. So.
Wow. Well, that's great. I know our listeners, they're mainly bullion interested, and they're definitely going to be interested for sure about the Ottawa facility. I think we'll have some footage in this interview showing some clips of people producing bullion products in that Ottawa facility that you just mentioned. What, in your view, are some of the unique things about the RCM?
Well, above all, a group of passionate innovators who are committed to really leading-edge technology. So some of the things that I could share with you, some of our proudest world first, if you want, include the world first colored circulation coin. That was in 2004, the 25-cent poppy. The multi-plated steel plating, which really reduced the use of the expensive nickel and copper and created coins with a very superior finish and durability and security, for us was really a very important moment. Also the world's first 5/9 pure gold bullion coin, which really was put on the map by the Mint's 100-kilogram 5/9 pure gold maple leaf bullion coin. So you or your listeners would have heard of it, but named as the $1 million coin. And then the bullion DNA and the anti-counterfeiting. That's the covert technology. That really is something that's very important. It makes the bullion coin the most secure in the world. So those are really some of the proud moments of the Mint. And every day, just the extraordinary quality, the art, the pieces that are produced for the Mint are just exquisite. So.
Yeah, speaking from firsthand experience, I've been in this industry for over 10 years now, and you guys have always seemed to be the most flexible, the most cutting edge, the ones that were ahead of the curve when it came to counterfeit threats. Just kudos to you guys for doing all the things that are required to make people feel safe and sound when they're buying your products, especially, for instance, the silver maple leaf or the gold maple leaf coins. I mean, those coins have so many built-in anti-counterfeit technologies. It's really... hat tip to you guys for being ahead of it and being, on the cutting edge.
Well, it's very important to us.
So I wanted to give one thing for the listeners. The biggest reason we're talking right now is about the 2019 Great Canadian VIP Getaway that SD Bullion and the Royal Canadian Mint are throwing. I wanted to give the listeners a little bit of an idea of maybe what they'll get if they win the contest.
Well, if they do win, we're very excited to be able to support the SD Bullion's contest by providing a VIP plant tour of our facility located in Ottawa. So this castle that I referred to, the winners of the contest will be able to visit. The recipients will get to see firsthand how bullion coins are made. So that's quite an opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. I know our listeners will be very excited anytime we show them footage of the way products are made behind the scenes. Everyone loves that. I mean, it's just for some reason it's the most interesting, one of the most interesting things we could show people. So if they can see it firsthand, I know, speaking firsthand from my experience, seeing other mints in person, it's great. So,
and James, I've been only, as I said, it's been 8 months, but every time I go down there, it's the same feeling. It's just extraordinary opportunity to be able to see this firsthand and so close. So I know that whoever is going to win this will get a real treat.
Well, Marie, we really appreciate you taking the time and speaking with us, and we want to wish you and all the people at Royal Canadian Mint the very best.
Thank you very much.
Turning now to our final special guest from the Royal Canadian Mint. With us is the Managing Director of Bullion and Numismatics, it's Mr. Lorne Whitmore. Lorne, thank you so much for coming on our podcast.
Good morning. Thanks for the opportunity.
So, Lorne, we had spoke briefly yesterday morning with the CEO of the Royal Canadian Mint. It's a real privilege to speak with Marie, and it's a real privilege to speak with you. I wanted to start off by letting the listeners know, how you got involved with the Royal Canadian Mint, your background there, if you could.
Sure. I actually joined the Royal Canadian Mint in the summer of 2017, so a little over 2 years ago. I came on board originally to support our numismatic and our bullion businesses, particularly our business-to-business channels. I then took on sometime thereafter responsibility for the refinery and storage business, and it's been an absolute pleasure to work for a great organization with great people.
Well, that's great. The storage business is relatively new. That I've seen that kind of bubble up out of the last few years. So obviously there's been a lot of growth there, I would assume.
Yeah, absolutely. I think investors are always looking for a secure place to store their precious metals, and obviously, we've got some pretty good pedigree and some really secure and facilities that are first class, and we're pleased to be able to offer that service in addition to some of the other ones that we do.
Speaking of other services that you do offer, you guys are involved with gold and silver refinery and assay services. What does that entail, if you wouldn't mind going into a little detail of what that's about?
Sure. So we're an LBMA good delivery refiner, so certified by the London Bullion Market Association. So in order to make sure we retain that status, we've made sure that we're committed to ethical business practices and responsible sourcing of gold and silver. The vast majority of our gold that we refine is actually sourced from Canadian mines, but we also do have some material that we get on a limited basis from other countries, as well as refining some scrap material to be recycled. One of the things that sort of highlights how the refining business kind of fits into the overall business at the Mint is kind of an interesting example. Is some time ago we did a coin celebrating the 20th anniversary of Nunavut. So it was a small gold collector coin, and in order to produce that coin, we actually took all of the material and we segregated it from our Nunavut-based mines, and then we took that and produced the actual coin that celebrated the land and the people and the history of Nunavut, using the gold of that region. So it's a really nice story in terms of how it fits into our integrated business, and I think increasingly the marketplace is interested in understanding more about the provenance of the metal.
Yeah, certainly. There have been some scandals in the last few years, and it's really good to know when you're buying gold and silver that the people involved with refining it are taking care with where they're sourcing the metals from, and it sounds like you guys are doing a really good job in terms of making sure that it's coming from reliable sources that are that are doing it responsibly. So you guys are one of the lone sovereign bullion mints that actually refine the precious metals. So that's a lot different. Most mints don't do that. They outsource a lot of that work. But you guys are one of in the cutting edge in terms of purity. I mean, you've made the most pure gold coin ever issued. A lot of your products, I think all your products are typically 0.9999. It's 4 nines, fine. So could you speak a little bit to that? When did that start, maybe, and kind of what's the difficulty in doing that? Why is that so hard to do?
First of all, purity has always been a calling card at the Royal Canadian Mint. So back in '79, the RCM actually launched the world's first 3 nines, so 99.9% pure gold bullion coin, which is the gold maple leaf. And we continued along that path. In 1982, we introduced the first 4 nines bullion coin, which is sort of our standard gold maple leaf offering at the moment. But we actually took it a step further in 2007, as you alluded to. We actually produced 5 nines gold at a refinery here and produced a 5 nines pure gold bullion coin. And every year we try and have a special release of our bullion products that actually celebrate that 5 nines capability. And the other thing you alluded to was what we coined the $1 million coin, which is something we also did in 2007, which was a 100 kilogram 5 nines pure gold maple leaf coin as well. So, and the face value is $1 million, hence the moniker.
Yeah, the very large gold coins that you guys have made have been great. Some of the videos that have been released on those have been really impressive. I wanted to turn a little bit and to give you guys kudos. I've been in this industry for over 10 years, and as far as sovereign mints is concerned, you guys have been on the forefront, on the cutting edge of the anti-counterfeit design regime, where you essentially have been well ahead of some of the threats that have been coming to market, some of the fake gold and silver products. And you guys were the first to come out with various additions to your silver maple leaf coin and your gold maple leaf coin. Could you speak a little bit to the radial lines and some of the micro engraving and some of the security bullion DNA things that you guys have come up with?
Sure. First of all, when it comes to investment buyers, sort of trust and liquidity are really king. So we try to address both of those elements in our product design and our product attributes. So maybe just quickly before we talk about the security features, in terms of liquidity, the fact that our bullion products are accepted by all of the major precious metal exchanges, London, New York, Tokyo, Shanghai, and Singapore. So the LBMA designation that I mentioned to you earlier, I think gives investors the confidence to invest in our products, as well as the purity that we just talked about. But certainly, knowing that when you make an investment in one of our coins, that it's a secure investment, you can have the confidence and trust that it's a genuine product. We recognize that quite early as something that's really important to investors. So we did build in, over time, a number of innovative, both overt and covert security features. So an overt one would be the radial lines you mentioned. We also have a laser mark, and we introduced something called Bullion DNA anti-counterfeiting technology, which allows us to digitally authenticate each and every gold coin and silver coin out in the marketplace. So both precious metals and base metals are obviously important, but certainly when you're dealing with precious metals, having that security around your investments critically important.
Yeah, kudos to you guys, because the product variety that you have, in not just in obviously in the numismatic world, you guys have a huge array of products, but even in the bullion world, you have, for a sovereign mint, you're one of the only sovereign mints that produces silver bars of different sizes. You have 100-ounce bars, which are a heavy favorite by a lot of 100-ounce bar buyers because it's nice to have a government backing on your 100-ounce bar. 10-ounce bars as well, which have unique serial numbers and radial lines. It's been, I've been in this industry for a long time, and to see the various products. I mean, on gold, you go from 400-ounce bars all the way down to 1 gram gold coins and even 1 gram gold bars, and I think you even have smaller than that in gold coins too. I mean, you guys have been pretty aggressive in the terms of the wide array of selection. Could you speak a little bit to the selection, and is that a driving principle that you guys have?
Yeah, it is for sure. And when we think about our products, it really starts with looking at the customer. So what we try and do is offer a mixed product portfolio that meets market demand from different regions and different customer objectives, and try to make sure that we're able to fulfill sort of the product needs and the objectives of each of those customer types. So as an example, there may be an institutional investor that's looking for large bars, whereas industrial and jewelry manufacturers may have demand for grain, as one example, or kilo bars, coins, or small bars are appropriate vehicles for retail investors. So we try and make sure that we're able to offer the full array of products that meet distinct needs across different marketplaces and different customer profiles.
Yeah, just speaking from firsthand experience, in 2012, I had traveled to Asia to do some work in our industry, and I was surprised and taken aback by how popular your products were, and specifically in Taiwan. It was amazing. I mean, you guys were leading, it seemed, in that area of the world, and the people there had a lot of respect for your products, and for very good reason. And that was before the anti-counterfeiting additions that you've made. So I'm sure they've only gotten more popular since. I wanted to ask you, in your opinion, what are the major differentiators do you think between the Royal Canadian Mint and other government bullion mints?
I have to say it's not really one thing. I think it's the totality of that combination of features that reflects really two things that are sort of the hallmarks of our business, and that's one, the focus on the customer needs, as well as a commitment to innovation. So I think it's the accumulation of all of those innovations that meet real customer needs that have differentiated us in the marketplace. So as an example, the security features you mentioned, the radial lines, the laser mark, and the Bullion DNA anti-counterfeiting, it's that combination of features and that dedication to continually innovate that I think is really important to our success. And something else I'll allude to in terms of innovation is the Mint Shield surface protection that we introduced about a year and a half ago, where we're actually able to protect against white spots. They do afflict silver coins kind of across the spectrum. So we thought we would take some leadership in addressing that problem, and we're able to introduce that to great effect. And it sort of followed a lot of R&D that we did in conjunction with both the industrial, scientific, and academic communities. It's combining that with the level of purity, the trust you can place in the Canadian brand, and then sort of that combination of features that allows it to be a confident choice among investors.
Yeah, the getting ahead of it is really important. I know for a little while there, if you have a silver coin exposed to the air, just physics-wise, or just by the element itself, it will oxidize. That's typical. So a lot of people will put them in air tubes or different types of protection. And the Mint Shield surface protection looks like it's going to be helping a lot in that regard. And so kudos to you guys for doing the research and development that's required to build in that additional value add to the coins.
Yeah, and while it doesn't affect the purity or anything like that, we just think, addressing every element of the product, including the aesthetics, is important to make sure that we stay ahead of the marketplace.
Certainly. If the Royal Canadian Mint, this is an interesting question we wanted to ask. In the last decade or so, if there was one product decision in hindsight that you guys might change looking back, what might that be?
To be honest, and with great humility, I'm not sure I'd change a lot, other than I suppose being able to introduce innovation faster and earlier, certainly would have enhanced the situation. But I think the reason we've been able to be successful, as I've alluded to, is really listening to the marketplace and the customers, and making sure that when we build features and think about products, we don't build things simply to build them or because we can, but we try and address a real customer need. So I think with that as our guiding light, it's put us on a pretty good course to make sure that we don't introduce products with a lot of regret.
We were wondering, what's the story behind the Pride of Two Nations program, the partnership with the U.S. Mint that you guys just recently released? I believe it was a coin that you guys did together. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. It's a two-coin set that we did celebrating two iconic coin images from the U.S. Mint and the Royal Canadian Mint. So it was a special release of a U.S. eagle and a Canadian maple leaf struck in 1 ounce silver with a special and unique finish, especially for this set. And it was a great example of a collaboration between two mints to make sure that the customers of both mints have something really unique and interesting. And we couldn't be more thrilled with how that was met by the marketplace and the success that product enjoyed. And it was a great way for the two mints to celebrate, the joint history and pride in the close relationship of our two countries.
That's great. I'm going to have to go out and search out those coins, because those two coins, they sound very interesting, and it's probably something worth having in the collection. I wanted to finish up the interview with you, Lauren, and ask you, what do you think is the perception of U.S. bullion customers of the Royal Canadian Mint? Most of our customers here at SD Bullion, the ones who are going to be involved with trying to win this VIP tour of the Royal Canadian Mint, what do you think they think of the Royal Canadian Mint products?
Well, first of all, good luck to those contestants. But in terms of the U.S. market, it's obviously an extremely important market for us, and one that we've spent a lot of time focusing on. And I guess our research has told us that U.S. bullion customers trust the Canadian Maple Leaf Bullion brand because it's widely accepted in the marketplace and provides liquidity. I think the purity advantages, the trust in the brand, and the security that we've talked about, and also in a combination of features and price that represents really good value for the investor.
Yeah, I agree on all those factors. You guys have been hitting on all of them ever since I've been in this industry over 10 years. Lauren, I really want to thank you for coming on and speaking to us about this contest and about the product specifically at the Royal Canadian Mint. Hat tip to you guys and all the great work you've been doing.
Okay, well, it's been a real pleasure, and I look forward to learning the outcome of your contest.
Thank you, Lauren.